Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Thank you for coming online. You are welcome. If you're going to watch this transmission after I've gone offline, you are also welcome. So today I'm going to be talking about your advice as a wife. Why is premarital counseling important? And lastly, we're going to talk about house helpers. So thank you for coming live. I would just like to start by talking about a post that I made today on wives. I got that from the book of Genesis. Thank you for joining. Just leave a comment and tell me where you are listening from. So today I shared on Sarai and Abraham. It was about when Sarai asked Abraham to have a child with their helper Hagar. And yes, I always said, couldn't have Abraham said no to the suggestion. So this is what I'm going to talk about today. Your advice as a wife matters. Okay. So in this particular paragraph, we learn that Abraham agrees to Sarai's suggestion. And I said I would have expected Abraham to say no, but he didn't. And he still went ahead and did as Sarai suggested. Hi, Mahiba. Thanks for joining. My question this morning was, or my question right now, I still want to speak to the wives concerning this, is do you ever stop to think about the advice that you give? Do you ever stop to think that it's going to affect you as well? Okay, so sometimes we give advice hoping that it's going to work against our spouses, but we don't realize that the same advice that we give will actually go against you. This is what we see here with Sarai. Sarai told Abraham to have a child. Yes, they had a promised child, but the way that they went about it wasn't the way that God planned it. So I would like to encourage you, if you have a promise, don't force it. Don't try to help God. God will do it exactly the way that he would want it to be done. So, hi, Msonda. So don't try to help him. By helping him, you're going to take a wrong route. So I also mentioned that as a wife, you must seek knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. How do we do that? We do that by actually meditating on the word. That is what I always say. The more you get involved with meditating on the word of God, the more wisdom you're going to have. So if you're a wife and you would like to gain understanding and you would like to have wisdom regarding your home affairs, I would really encourage you to take time in meditating on the word of God. That basically means, so you're not sitting there and you're blank, but what you do basically is spend time, have a quiet time, read the Bible, get to praise and worship, and get to pray. That's how we do that. So your advice as a wife really matters. So I'll move straight on to why premarital counseling is important. If you are watching, I would like you to tag a friend, tag somebody who's intending to get married anytime soon or in the future. Tag a wife, tag a husband, because what we are going to discuss today is really going to help you with your marriage or with your relationship if you're still courting. If you like what I'm saying, give me a heart or a wow. If you're hearing something for the first time, simply give me a wow or give me a heart for love if you just love what I'm doing. All right, so we're going to talk about why premarital counseling is important. I've been asked several times why premarital counseling is important. People feel they know each other well. They can simply move in and begin to live together. Or They can just get married, sign the documents, and continue as husband and wife. Why is it so important? Why do we make a fuss about people going for marriage counseling? That is premarital counseling I'm talking about. So in marriage counseling, there are two things that are involved. You either go for marriage enhancement, or you can go for conflict resolution, or you can do your premarital counseling. So premarital counseling is for people that are not yet married. There are times when I have to go backwards and go through the premarital sessions with a couple which didn't have a privilege or didn't get a chance to do their counseling sessions before they got married. So one thing I would like to point out to you is that premarital counseling is very important and is really necessary for any couple getting into marriage. This is going to help you in the long run. The sessions that are offered will assist you to understand everything else about marriage. You might not understand the full bouquet of marriage, but you're going to have some information that will equip you as you get started. Then premarital sessions are also going to help you to understand each other. There are certain things that you as a couple can talk about, but in your conversations, you will never bring out real issues. So that is what will happen in the premarital counseling. So the sessions in a premarital counseling will normally include finances, how you're going to sort out your finances as a couple. We will also include communication. I always talk about effective communication in any relationship, so that would be part of any sessions. And you would also learn about family, your extended family and your nuclear family. So there's quite a lot to be learned before we eventually get into marriage. So there's a lot more. I've just mentioned 3 of them. If you approach any counselor or if you get to my website, you'll be able to see what else will be offered in the sessions. So I always say that when you are dating, it's very easy. Your relationship might be very easy, but there are some matters which are going to spring up when you get married. And if you are not well prepared for marriage, you are going to experience a lot of trouble because you might not know how to tackle your situation. So when you go in for a session, you'll be assisted, you'll be given tools, and you'll be given suggestions on how best you can approach any situation that you may be confronted at any point in time. Good afternoon, welcome. So if you've just joined us, I'm talking about premarital counseling, the importance of premarital counseling. I'll be talking about house helpers, and I will also go over what I just started with, which is the advice that wives give. I'm a wife, so this also counts for me. Have I lost the connection? Oh, I thought for a moment that I had lost the connection. I'm still connected. Okay, so I got distracted there because of the connection. Just give me a moment. I just want to catch up. Anyhow, okay, I lost my point there. But there are a lot of counselors that are available on the market. And if, like I said earlier, if you are going to get married, or if you're intending to get married anytime soon, you will need to phone them and find out what their offering is. There are some people that have been married before and they intend to get married in future. There's some people that, let me talk about a couple where one person has been married before and another person has not been married before. It is only fair that you both attend counseling. Just because you've been married before doesn't mean you shouldn't do your premarital counseling. There's going to be a problem there because you have experienced what marriage is about, and perhaps you have an idea of what this marriage is about, or what it's going to be, or what to expect. But the person who's never been married before is really blank. They need to know what to expect, and they need to know what it's all about. So I'm encouraging people that have not been married before and people that have been married before to attend the premarital sessions. Okay. Who just joined us? Jawu Matlang, thanks for joining us. So, I'll move on to the next one. Oh, before I move on to the next one thing that I would like to point out is that a lot of churches are not going to marry you off if you haven't attended any counseling sessions. So it's a requirement that you first go for sessions, and these sessions are normally between 3 to 6 months. Yes, 3 to 6 months should have been done with that. So get in touch with your church, get in touch with any counselor, or get in touch with myself, and let's see how best you can be assisted before you move into marriage, you get into marriage. And what I'm going to look at now is the house helpers. I was tagged in a video, I think a week ago or some days ago anyway. I was tagged in a video by somebody, and I really didn't like what I saw. In this video, there was somebody who was accused of having stolen from her boss. Okay, this is a helper. And the lady that tagged me, hi Sally, I see Sally has joined us. She actually tagged me into this video. She said I must talk about what we can delegate, or what can be delegated to the house helpers that are working for us. So just talking about the video, it wasn't such a good video, and I just don't know why that video was taken. Perhaps what that person could have done was to speak to her in private and I know she made a mistake because she acknowledged, but it wasn't good. We shouldn't be doing that to people. That was quite embarrassing, and I'm sure she'll live with that, for the rest of her life. But the main focus for today is not on that video. The focus is on the delegation. Do you have a house helper? Tag somebody that you would like to hear what we are going to talk about this afternoon. Tag a friend, tag a sister, tag anybody who just doesn't know what to do in their home regarding the helpers. Firstly, I wanted to define house helper or housemaid, because a lot of times people are feeling guilty, so to say, when they have employed somebody in their homes, or perhaps people are not just even understanding what this means. So I thought I should first talk about what a house helper means, or a housemaid. I prefer using the term helper. That's what I am comfortable with. I don't know what you're comfortable with. But the dictionary defines a maid as a female domestic servant, or it defines a domestic helper as somebody who has been employed to work in your house. That's the definition. So a lot of times I'm asked what should be done. Should the person that is working for you do this and that? And I always say it's really up to you. The first question I would like to ask is, why have you employed that person? Okay. If you know why you have employed the person that is working for you, you are going to work better with them. That is my first point. I would like you to note that depending on where you are, a helper is going to look different, or will be defined differently. Of course, we watch on movies, or we've got brothers and sisters, we've got relatives that stay maybe in America, and they have helpers there, and the helpers there are going to be different from the kind of helpers that you're going to find in Europe. They'll be different from the kind of helpers that you're going to find here in Africa. And I'm going to concentrate on us Africans. What is it that we need to do? And what do we understand by this term? And what are we supposed to do as employers? That is what I'm going to talk about, and I will focus just on that. So when we have a helper, we need to define, we need to discuss with them what we want them to do If you fail to discuss with them what you want them to do in the house, you're going to experience a lot of problems. But in the post where I was tagged, there was an issue where somebody mentioned that some people delegate everything to their helpers. And that is exactly what I want us to talk about. When you have employed somebody, what are the limits? What are the limitations, rather? What are you supposed to do and what are you not supposed to do? I'm not here to tell anybody what they should do in their home, that is their space, but I can simply suggest or I can simply advise, okay? So looking at our cultures in Africa, most of us have been taught that there are certain things that we should do on our own and there are certain things that a helper can assist with, that, can assist. Fair enough. I agree that we need to protect ourselves. But I also want to mention, I also want you to note that it's not all helpers that mean bad to you. Not every helper who comes to work for you has got a bad intention. A lot of people just need a job. So you shouldn't look at a helper as somebody who is there to destroy your home or somebody who's there to steal from you. Because I've had good people work for me, okay? And I have learned that people are taking their job seriously and there's really nothing wrong with that. You just need to understand why you have employed them. For starters, I would suggest that if you haven't discussed or you have not really defined what exactly your helper is supposed to be doing in your house, then have a meeting with them. Let them know what you want them to do. If you haven't employed somebody yet, but are looking to employ somebody, this is really going to help you. If you've already employed somebody, it's okay. You can change the rules. It's just like a job. If I'm working, my boss can still, my employer rather can still let me know that the job description is changing. So job descriptions do change. So let's focus on what this talk is particular, is about rather. Most of the helpers have been employed to wash, to cook, to babysit, to take care of the house. And that is really, I think, the basic in general. That is what they do. They're here to help us to clean the house. They're here to help us to wash, to tidy up. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't have a problem with anybody having a helper. Actually, if you've read, I'll take an example from the Bible. Okay, the Proverbs 31 woman had a helper. And if you read about Rebecca was Isaac's wife. When Rebecca was getting married, she was given helpers. So I take that as an example. You can have a helper. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you having a helper in the house. But if you think you can manage the work in the house, that is perfectly fine. But if you want to have a helper in the house, don't feel guilty about it. If you can afford it, get one because it's going to help you. So I always said the reason you have employed your helper will determine the level of delegation. So the issue has been what we ask them to do. Of course, I know there are certain things that are really private for you that you don't want them to do. It's perfectly fine. But there are some people, like I said, depending on where they are located and depending on their schedule, they might want their helper to do everything for them. It's really up to them. Okay. So I wanted to also mention, before I proceed, the issue of voodoo. Somebody mentioned voodoo, that there are some helpers who will bring voodoo for you in your home. I don't know how you are working, but yes, it's possible, depending on the intention of that person, that they can bring in all those things. But don't always focus on that. Focus on the job description and what you want to get out of the job. My point today is that I would like to compare a career woman and a woman who is staying at home. I've experienced both, okay? I'm a career woman and there was a time when I stayed at home. There's a lot of work in the house, and if you work, you go to work. You also are employed to perform. So there's so much work. You may start at 8 and only leave the office at 4. You've been working all that time. And when you come back home, there's still so much work that needs to be done. If you have children, it means those children need to be taken care of. If you have a husband, it means that husband needs to be taken care of. So I just don't understand why we keep shooting at women who are delegating certain duties to their helpers. It's really dependent on the schedule. If somebody can afford and they have to go to work, they don't have time to come and cook when they get back home, but they have a helper. They can teach the helper to cook so that the helper can have the meals on time. What happens if somebody is working and the children are home and need to eat? There will be nobody to eat. I love cooking my own food, so that has always been something that I do for myself. I love to cook, so I prefer cooking my own meals. But if you are struggling, you have a job and you have to work and you have to come back home and still work, you eventually burn out. There has to be a structured way of doing this. So on delegation, if you are comfortable with your helper doing the meals for you, teach them, let them help you out. You're going to perform better in the office. And remember, you're still a wife. There are still other duties to be performed in the house. So if you're going to come from work exhausted, get home, start scrubbing the floors, and start doing everything else that you need to do as a wife. You'll be so exhausted. By the time you go to sleep, by the time you go to bed, there's no time for intimacy left for the two of you. So it's really dependent on how you are going to structure things in your home. Speak to your spouse if you need help. There are some spouses that don't want their helpers to help out in a lot of things. It's fine. Have a discussion and see what can be delegated. There are certain matters that are really personal. For instance, let's talk about washing panties. Okay, that can be done by yourself. You don't need to do that. You don't need to ask anybody to do that for you. I spoke about cooking because cooking is on the lighter side. I spoke about cleaning the house. Cleaning the house is really on the lighter side, and that's really the reason why you have employed this person. So understanding why you have employed them, having a discussion with your spouse and understanding what your spouse how your spouse feels about what you need to do will help you to go ahead with what is supposed to be done in the home. But a lot of, I think the worry of most women is not so much about what the spouse is going to say, or forget what the people around you are going to say. They'll always talk. It's the issue about delegating so much to the extent that the helper begins to feel it's her home. This is the main point. The reason we are told to do a lot of things on our own is basically that some spouses will come in and not spouses, some helpers will come in with an agenda, take advantage of the situation and kick you out. We have seen that happen to a lot of people. That is the most fear in women. They fear that if they delegate too much, that is going to happen eventually. So you really have to be careful. I always say, when you have a helper in the house, they are not supposed to tell you what to do. They are not supposed to control you. It shouldn't be a situation of, say, you're coming from work one day and they tell you, oh, you are frying eggs for your husband. He doesn't eat eggs anymore. Hello? How did that happen? How did I miss that? Oh, your child doesn't drink this anymore. So be in control. My point is, be in control of your own house. Have a helper, but be in control. They should not control you. They should not run the show. Just be in control. So we see the Proverbs 31 woman being in control of her own house. She's the one who's waking up early in the morning and apportioning everything to the helpers. I'm sure she had more than one because it says helpers. So when she comes in, when she wakes up in the morning, she gives everybody a portion and tells them what exactly they need to do. That is what you're supposed to do. They are not supposed to control you. But I want to say that there's really nothing wrong with having a helper in your home. And I want to repeat that the reason you have employed your helper will determine the level of delegation. So I can't speak for people that are so busy. I've got friends that travel a lot. They go away from home for maybe 2 weeks and 3 weeks, and they've left a helper at home. They've got a job. How are they supposed to do that? Should they have cooked everything else before they left? The bed still needs to be made. The laundry still needs to be done. So this is where now husbands come in. If you are not able to allow your helper to assist your wife, then unfortunately you have to do the work, because your wife also gets tired. A lot of people are breaking down. A lot of people are feeling depressed because there is too much work on their hands. So they go to work, they have to take care of their children, they have to come and take care of their house, they have to take care of the home, they have to make everything work for the home. And I have seen a lot of women breaking down. It's not funny out there. So yes, tradition has taught us that we must be in control. We must do everything else as wives, but there is a limit to what we can do, especially if you are working. But if you don't work, if you are not working, you are not going out to work, and you are a stay-at-home mom, I see no reason why you should delegate a lot of things. But again, if you are paying for the service and you can afford it, then you can sit down and relax. Then you pick what you want to do, and let the person that you have employed work. It's a job, like I defined earlier, a helper. It's a job. It's a real job. So why should somebody feel guilty about asking somebody to sweep or to wash the dishes? It's their job. Okay. So today, if you just joined us today, I'm talking about pre-marital counseling, why it's important, why it's necessary for a couple to attend pre-marital counseling before they get married. I'm also talking about house helpers, the level of delegation, how much can we delegate to them? And I spoke about the advice that you as a wife gives. It's very important. So I'll just go over them and I will conclude. If you have any questions, please write them down in the comments. Otherwise, send me a message in my inbox and I'll be happy to respond. But when we started, I was talking about your advice as a wife. I posted something this morning, which was on Sarai and Abraham before they changed their names to Sarah and Abraham. So Sarah had suggested to her husband, Abraham, to have a child with their helper, okay? And I'm happy actually that I'm talking about house helpers, and also the topic of Sarai and Abraham is being spoken about. So yes, she suggested to him, he had a choice. He should have said no, but he didn't. He eventually had a child. So this caused even more pain in the home. It didn't help, it didn't solve matters. So what kind of advice are you giving to your husband? You need to pray before you give advice. You need to seek knowledge. Wisdom and understanding is really going to help you as a wife. So, yeah, so that's it about advice on the wife, and advice on the wife. And on the premarital counseling, I was just giving out pointers why it is very important, why you should go for counseling, and how it's going to help you as a couple when you're starting out. The kinds of topic that you're going to expect, like communication, finances, family. Yeah, so that's it on premarital counseling. And then on the house helpers, I spoke a lot today on the house helpers, the delegation. Sometimes as wives, we break our backs so much because we are afraid of what people are going to say about us. I feel this is something that you and your spouse perhaps can discuss. Okay, there are certain issues that are a no-no that you cannot delegate. Okay, because what are you going to be doing in that home at the end of the day? So there are certain things that you should do as a wife, and you'll be proud of them. You'll be happy that you did them. But there are times when it's just not possible, especially when you are away from home or when you are a career woman. Some of those things are just not possible. So what can be done about it. I would like to suggest that if you have a helper and you are not sure or you don't know how to go about the duties that they need to do, write down, not really a long contract, make them understand that if they don't work according to what you want, then you have to discipline them in one way or the other. I'm not talking about what we saw on Facebook taking its rounds, but you will speak to them as somebody that you have employed, as an employer. So it's going to be the kind of employee-employer relationship. Okay, so if you've just joined us, we are talking about helpers, we are talking about premarital counseling and advice that you give as a wife. Okay, so that's all that I had for you this afternoon. I just would like to remind you that I'll be online next week on Wednesday at the same time. I start at 3 p.m. If you have any discussion topics that you would like to forward me, send them in my inbox, or you can write them in your, you can jot down something in the comment box. I'll be happy to look at that. And then I would like to remind the people in Gauteng that we'll be having our women's session this Saturday from 3 p.m. to 5 at the Innovation Hub in Pretoria. If you haven't reserved a seat, get in touch and RSVP. And then we are going to have a dinner and a couples workshop in Zambia, in Lusaka, on the 9th of August. If you haven't yet booked your seat, kindly do so, because we have limited space. And we don't want to have a crowd, because we want the sessions to be very interactive. That's what it's about. It's a workshop. It's not a crusade. And it's not really church, it's a workshop. So we're going to be doing a lot of talking and interaction. And then lastly, we have a couples retreat coming up in September, from the 27th to the 29th of September in Johannesburg. That's in Gauteng, South Africa. If you're interested, please get in touch and I'll be happy to give you all the information. I would like to inform you, if you are single and you are not sure whether you are ready to get married or not, there is an online course that I'll be launching soon. Please look out for it. It's Am I Ready for Marriage? You'll be able to take that course online. You don't have to come to Pretoria anymore, but you can simply log in and do your course online. So look out for that one. And if you want to know anything else about what I'm involved in, about Marriage Pillar, or just the relationship coaching and the services that I offer, kindly log on to francinechirambo.com. That's my website. I'm on YouTube, and I have uploaded a number of videos that I haven't shared on Facebook. So if you want to get more tips, please subscribe to my channel on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching. Good afternoon, and let's talk some loving.